Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.
I got to write down the notes. I got to make diagrams. I've got to create a place of of teaching, education for these students, and so that you can make sure that they get it. But hopefully, in some way, I might be able to communicate this in a few words, maybe. Now that's a feat for me, few words. Cause as my kids would tell me, Dad, you go all the way down around there, come back there, come back. And I have a reason for doing that because I like for them to understand the bigger picture so that you can see what's going on here. And sometimes you're just trying to bring it all in so that you can break it down so that they can get it. But I'm a special education major. That's my second degree. My first degree is science. But my second degree has forced me to really try to break things down to where, as my brother would say, so the goats can get it. Now, don't take that metaphor all wrong to say, oh, he's calling, special ed students or whatever, because that's not what it means. It means that you're trying to break down a higher concept down to where the children can get it. They haven't had all of these experiences that we have in life, and so you can just say a couple of words and they get it because they're still learning. So it becomes wisdom. I recently had a little situation. My father is 97 years old, and he's beginning to fade. And those things that I've held so high, in my mind about him are beginning to fade. And it's like, oh my goodness, he was a wise man. He has to be, and to still be here, that he must have did something right. And he raised 8 children. And he was the youngest. He was not the youngest of 8, but right next to the youngest of 8 himself. And he's still here. Mom's been gone quite a bit of time, but my dad is still here. He's always been a very peaceful man. He's always been, to me, a man who thought about things before he spoke. And my dad would speak slowly because he didn't just throw something out of his mouth, without thinking about it. And that's what I would like to establish and be more of that. I'm speaking slow because I do have to think, have to stop and think, and I think a wise man does need to, when you say something, you want to make sure that you've given it your best thought before you hand it to your loved ones. It's like a good mother. You need to study the ingredients of all this food and stuff before you feed it to your children. You need to do the best you can. Now, you may make some mistakes sometimes. That some things can get by you, but the wisdom that you already have helps you to be able to prepare this food because you want it to be the right thing for the health of your children. So me, because I care so much about you, I have to stop and think. I have to make sure, just like as I was very tenderly and kind of, as my present significant other, she was saying, I'm walking on eggshells. Well, I'm walking on eggshells to teach you because I don't want to say the wrong thing and your mind go race into another place. And that's not what I was saying. Often my children have come to me, even lately at this age, my kids are in their 20s and stuff, and they're asking me about things that happened way back when they were coming up. And their interpretation of what I said was far. They didn't understand. Now I'm explaining to them now that they're older. They say, oh, now they get it. But as a child, they didn't hear that. They heard something else. So even when I'm talking to my significant other now, female, Okay. I would try to be very slow about what I say because I know her mind moves real quick and she thinks she's getting it and she's not. She's thinking almost like my kids. My kids have, because they're young and they're moving, their minds are racing, I guess, but you have to slow down to get wisdom. And a person who is a giver of wisdom, we have to be very particular about what we say. You don't just run your mouth off and just saying what seems to be smart and make you look like, oh, you're the hot shot. No, wisdom teaches you. Be slow about what you say because you don't know how this person is interpreting things. Because they'll run off thinking they got what you said, and they missed it. And I've seen that happen very often with even adults now, especially when a person you're trying to teach is maybe as old as you are, but I have not, and may seem to have the same education you have, but they don't have the same wisdom because they weren't taught these things. It's not, my children will be able to receive these things maybe later because they came up in these environments. They came up in an environment, and maybe later, then they can look back and after you tell them, and once they have had children, then they can say, oh, now I understand. But they couldn't understand it when you were giving it to them because I want to make sure that I take my time to try to explain this so that the goats can get it. Okay. This is really good. I want it. It's cooling off. I think I'm gonna put it over here on my hot plate so it can get hot again. Okay. So I'm back. Now, what I'd like to talk about is words, the power of words. The power of words. This is so important right now, especially young men, if you're going to be leaders. And I say, if you're going to be in a relationship, if you're going to establish a relationship, and by the way, men, this should be you. You are the one that should be seeking for a good field to plant your seed. A good field, a field that has all the things that you need for good nurturing. You need to know how to choose a good field. And if that field is missing something, then you need to know how to enrich that soil. You need to know what to bring to that soil that as an animal science, I'm beginning to understand even better the reason why, like you have the 4-H, and I think you can send your soil samples. You get certain soil samples from that particular land and you send it in. It's analyzed and they can tell you what that soil is missing. So these are the things that we need to learn as young men. When you're choosing or vetting for a nurturer, a female, you're not just looking for hips and thighs and beautiful eyes. You're not just looking for that. You're looking for a woman of substance. You're looking for a good property, land, and wrong word, property, because we don't like to be seen as property, But what I'm saying is, this is your seed that you're about to plant. And I'm trying to use a metaphor. Jesus used a lot of them, parables. And he will say, be careful about where you plant your seed. He talks about the man who went about sowing seeds. And he sowed some on fertile land, some on this kind of land, some on concrete, whatever, And these were analogies. Some people get offended because I said property. No, I'm talking about land where you're going to plant your seed. And your seed is your property. Your seed came from you. Well, maybe it's not. Maybe it came from God. Okay, so it's not even yours. but you've been given the responsibility to plant it. Okay, so young men, you need to stop and value, get to know yourself, get to love yourself. And all that you don't like about you, you need to change. You need to improve the quality of who you are. So once you improve that and you're where you think you need to be, to where you feel so good about you and the investments that you have made into you, now you might want to replenish the earth. So you need to find good land to plant your seed so that you can get a bumper crop. Okay? And usually when we plant a seed, or when we find that land that you want to invest your seed into, you don't just plant one seed, because when you plant that one seed, you're going to get, oh my goodness, see how good God is? You take one seed, put it in the ground, let's say an ear of corn. You see how many seeds are on there? That's money. That's God's money. You can take one of those seeds, put it in the ground, and it'll bring a plant up 6 feet tall, and it'll have 5 or 6 of those ears of corn on it, on that one plant.
Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe.